Hello, everyone. We are live. Give me a second. I'm going to mute my channel. Got to find it. Told you.
I knew it. That was funny.
And now I have to find my chat. Okay. This is real. Real talk with Miss Kathy. Real live with Miss Kathy. There's going to be issues with Miss Kathy. It happens. Welcome everyone in the chat. I do want to welcome my guest. I'm so happy to have Matt and Patti here with me. I have Matt from Create You and Patti Broussard. I knew I was going to botch it up. And both of their channels are in the description of this video. So please be sure and check out their channels. These two are awesome people. I have been interacting with Matt and Patti on live streams and on YouTube. I love watching Patti's videos. She's an incredible musician. She plays an instrument called the array mbira. Did I get that right?
That's it.
Yay.
Did better than I would have.
It is a very unique instrument. It brings me so much joy to hear her playing, and she's so creative. She takes so much time in getting her videos to perfection, I might add. So definitely check her out. Matt he has a channel where he wants to create you. He wants to create you. He wants to make you a better person. And I love being in his live streams. They're so motivating, and I'm so happy to have you. But the topic of real talk tonight is addiction and recovery. Matt and Patti both know this well. They both have an addiction that they are in recovery for, and they are here tonight to share their stories. And I want to put them on the show. I don't know which one of you want to go first, because we haven't talked about that.
I'm going to pin this one on Patti.
Oh, thank you.
Ladies first, right?
Absolutely.
Well, let me just welcome the chat and then also let you guys know that I don't plan on interrupting my guests. I do want to put them on the floor and let them share their story. And then later, after their stories are shared, we will welcome the chat for questions and just an open panel discussion. So welcome, and just please sit back and enjoy the show. Patti, tell me all about you.
All about me. First, thank you for asking me. I'm honored to be able to come on your channel and share my story. I hope, like all of us that are in recovery from whatever we're in recovery from, I hope it is an inspiration, and maybe there's someone out there that just gets touched and nudged to join us in recovery.
Awesome.
Okay, so
I have to say that one time I heard you say a couple weeks ago that you give someone their voice.
Yes.
That meant so much to me when you said that I've continued to use it since then. And that's what I want to be tonight. I want to be an outlet for someone to find their voice.
Okay, well, that is exactly what I had to learn to do. And I'm going to get deep. I'm going to share, because what I have learned throughout the 20 years I've been in recovery, 20 years.
Wow.
Congratulations.
That in order to stay healthy and in order to stay in recovery, it's the truth that sets me free. And sharing my truth is what keeps me healthy. So my truth is, and whenever I share my story, I started out with this. I don't look for pity for what happened to me as a child. Okay? We all have our stories, and my story starts out with when it was the summer after, I've got a little bit of an echo going on. The summer after I was in first grade, I was molested by a perpetrator. And ever since then, it took that one moment. And I know people out there that have been sexually abused as a child. It takes that one moment that just totally changes your life. Your soul is just ripped from you. And how you deal with it from then on, the majority, well, not majority, there's a huge percentage of little girls that were molested that turn to anorexia or eating disorders as their means of coping because they don't see their bodies as good anymore. We see us as ugly and fat and harmed, and just, it destroys that little girl. So this is what happened to me, and it really it started immediately after that. The summer came, the summer went, and I went into second grade, and I can even remember being in second grade comparing myself to all the other girls. As a second grader, I was like going, I'm so much fatter than she is, but I wasn't. I've always been a tiny person. I've always been, but I did not see that. And so second grade, third grade, fourth grade is when I started controlling my food. And I won't go into detail, but when I went into treatment for my eating disorder, all this stuff, all this history, all my backstory started making sense, the things I did. So fourth grade is when I really started controlling food. And believe it or not, it had to do with peanut butter. And that comes later in my 20s. I also used peanut butter as a control. So those two things, in therapy, those two things connected what I did as a child and what also came as an adult. Anyway, so all through school, all through junior high, all through high school, I struggled with food. I struggled with self-image. I struggled with just being okay in my body. And then as I got into my 20s, things got a little worse. And I then resorted to over exercising. Mm-hmm. So I had the restriction of the foods along with over exercising. And let's see if I can, it was just a non-ending battle. I would tell myself, okay, you've got to stop this. My family would tell me, you've got to stop this, and then I would go, okay, I can handle this. I'll start eating again. I'll do everything right, but you've got to stop this. Uh-oh, I hear myself echoing.
That was my fault. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
You're fine.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but at this point, Patti, did your family already know of your young abuse?
Well, when I was in second grade, and I just say this, a mom does what she can as a mom, right?
Yeah.
So the way I tried to tell my mom what happened was, of course, through art. I got a piece of paper and I drew this picture. And it was very kind of in detail. And I can remember sitting where I was sitting, and I can remember handing her this picture I drew. And I love my mom, and any mom that has a child hand her a picture like what I drew, of course, their first reaction is probably going to be crumple it up and let's not ever talk about that again. Mm-hmm. That was her reaction. But, moms do what they can do. She didn't know how to handle it. So yeah, I did express it, but that was the only time. And, you know, after that, it was like, you know, just shut it up and don't talk about it. And it ate at me. And then I didn't eat because of that.
Yeah. But as far as bringing awareness now, I mean, that's a sign to some younger parents now to let your children speak and let your children express themselves.
This was years and years ago when it was a tough thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But then as I got into my 30s, and again, I would always try to pull myself out, but I'd always get sucked back in. I went through a seasonal depression year after year after year, where when it got to be summertime, I went into my depression because the sound, the smell, all those things took me back to that time when I was a little girl at that time of year. So kind of moving on forward, I got to be, I was about 37, 36. And let me tell you, the one thing that did make me want to hold myself back from asking for help was the fact that I was an adult. And I didn't feel like an adult should be doing this stuff, but I couldn't help it. It was my means of survival with the feelings inside that I just
because you never addressed it as a child. Yeah,
absolutely. So moving on forward, at the age of 37, I had many like interventions, friends and relatives, but finally at 38, I really hit my bottom. I mean, and I also have to be careful what I share because the anorexic community out there, I don't know what it's like these days online, but I'm sure that there are people that triggers. So I have to be careful what I share because I don't want to be a trigger to anybody looking for, but I will say my rock bottom was, lying on the couch, refusing water. I wouldn't even put water in my body because it would make me way too much or, make me fat. And I agreed to go to treatment after another intervention. And I found myself actually even driving to treatment, my husband driving me. I was even in the car telling him, let's turn around. I'll figure this out. I can do this. I don't need to go here. And he's like, heck no, we're going forward. So I ended up at a treatment center. Can I say the name of it? Is that okay?
Of course. Okay. Yeah, I don't hold you back at all.
Okay.
Whatever you're willing to share.
Yeah. In Abilene, Texas, there is a wonderful treatment center called Shades of Hope. And it is nothing like these, I hope I don't get in trouble, these frou-frou places where people go and they're like pampered and yeah. This place was like you had a little bunk bed and nobody took your crap. You were there to work on yourself, and boy, did I work on myself. I stayed there. I spent 3 months in treatment. I found my voice. I will never forget working on what was called anger therapy, because all those years, and I'm a quiet person. I'm reserved. I'm sweet, as people could say. But all those years, man, that anger that built up within me was way up here. So I would have to say this anger therapy that I went through, where I'm in a room, and this was a group therapy. And I like sharing this because I think anger therapy is a wonderful thing. Just to kind of touch on what it is, because it is what helped me start the healing that I had to do. I had a bat. I want to get like kind of detailed. There's this huge red pillow. Red means anger, right?
Yeah.
Red is the color of anger. So Patti had this bat, and I had these therapists coaching me to get this stuff that was inside of me for all these years. And I beat I don't say any bad words. I beat the heck out of that red pillow.
I don't think that was a bad word. I'll say it for you.
For like an hour. And at the end of that anger therapy, I was drained. I had never felt so free.
Sorry, that was me. Sorry.
I never felt so free, and that all that stuff got out. And then, so then, you know, the rest of the treatment went on. I stayed there for 3 months. Sorry.
No, 3 months. Wow. I was just going to ask you, how long were you there?
3 months. And,
wow.
And then at the end of my 3 months, the staff, you know, we had like a family meeting, and they had suggested to my family that I stay another month, but in like the halfway house, or the transition house, they called it. So where I could like learn to feed myself.
Yes.
And have a little more freedom. You know, I could leave, I could like drive home on the weekends, but you know, Sunday night I had to be back at the transition house. And then once I passed that, you know, Miss Patti was free. You know, that wow. Life of misery, I worked my butt off. And I must say, I am one of the fortunate ones, because not many people get out of that. You know, it's so, I can't think of the word.
My niece went through this last year, where she went away, and she's doing really well.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. We live in the St. Louis area, so it was but it was very similar, where she was led away and had to stay. And then she went kind of like you said, the halfway, where she was able to come home on the weekends. And yeah, I had that. It was brutal, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I'm just so thankful that I've kept it up. I don't want to ever go back to that, you know, ever.
Yeah. Do the counselors or the therapists that you work with keep in touch with you from time to time? Do you ever hear from them, or does that cause a trigger? Like,
oh, no. I would love to go visit them. But I will tell you, after I got back home and I went to OA meetings, which is Overeaters Anonymous, but it's all the same thing. We all used food as our means of control, right? So I would go to my OA meeting twice a week, and I found my sponsor there. And to this day, we still email every single day.
Oh,
my first email every morning is my sponsor, which is really important.
Yep. And I was going to ask you about that, Patti, because once you leave a recovery center, it's so easy to start sliding back into old habits and old behavioral patterns. So you found yourself in OA. Mm-hmm. And to me, I was thinking, well, like, is there even a 12-step meeting for bulimia or anorexia or anything like that? And hearing that you found a home in OA, that's incredible. Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah. I don't go anymore. I don't go to the OA meetings anymore, but I did go for a very long time. I feel like that is just so much in my past. And I am so strong. My faith plays a huge part. And Kathy, I do want to come back, and maybe on another night, I want to share this story about this red dragonfly.
I would love that.
Yes. And just to give you a little teaser of what it is, like I said, I would go through this seasonal depression, even after treatment. I would have this seasonal depression that I had to like work through until fall hit. I love fall. It's my favorite season of the year. Go figure. But in 2008, I was going down. It was June, I guess, or June, July. No, it was the end of July. And I had been going down into this depression. And I was just about to go to the doctor to get something to help, get me through that. And I walked outside my backyard, and there was this red dragonfly. I got his picture here. See if you can see that.
Wow.
That's a picture I took of him. I saw this guy.
Very cool
this guy in my backyard. I was actually taking a photography class when this happened. So I got some stunning photos. But this guy was in my backyard on the Sunday before I was going to go to the doctor on Monday, right? I saw him. He got my attention. I went out there. He wasn't scared of me. I walked right up to him, hand right next to him. I got goosebumps. It's a wonderful story. And I spent like 2.5 hours just admiring this red dragonfly. And then the next morning, I went, I wonder if he came back. And I went outside, the same spot, the same time. He was there.
I've never heard of a red dragonfly.
It's the first time. It's the first time I ever saw a red dragonfly. I was like 40 something, I think, and I had never seen a red dragonfly. But I spent another 2.5 hours just sitting out there. I mean, like right up to him. I could cup my hand under him and he wouldn't fly away. And then
there is a saying or a symbol of the dragonfly itself, but I don't know what red dragonfly, other than the red meaning in the anger that you had. I don't know if that's a symbolization there.
I think back then when I was starting to research red dragonflies, it meant hope. In like the Chinese, or in the Chinese whatever, it means like hope and stuff like that. But just another teaser, the next day I wake up and I go, man, I wonder if that red dragonfly is there. And I go outside, same time, same spot, little guy's there. I spend 2.5 hours with him. And during all this, my depression is like, I'm not focused on that anymore. I'm focused on this red dragonfly that keeps showing up in my backyard at the same time in the same place. And I got smart and I started to video. Instead of just taking photos of him, I started to video my interaction with this red dragonfly.
Modern day text says the dragonfly symbolizes change, transformation, adaptability, and self-realization.
There you go. There you go. This went on for 18 days. Same time, same place, same dragonfly. It got to the point where I was petting him.
No way.
Yes.
Dude, this is awesome.
It's a wonderful story. I share it whenever I can. But I started taking footage of my interaction with him because I'm like, I got to document this. And so I was making videos every night, and add in music and, trying to make a story out of each visit from each day. And I would put them up on my YouTube channel. This was back when
I was going to say around 2008. Wasn't that around when you started your YouTube journey?
Yes, it was. So I had my array music, and then this red dragonfly started showing up on my YouTube channel.
Now, do you still have these? Are they private? Because I want to go back and find
right.
them.
Same here.
They're unlisted right now.
Okay.
But I would be happy to share them with whoever wants to see them.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested.
It was an amazing experience, and I do want to come back and go more in depth, with you about that.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in that. Alien says red veined dragonflies are very rare. Very red? Oh, very red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Red veined dragonflies.
Yeah, by the end of that 18 days, the depression was gone. So what I call this, and like I said, my faith plays a huge part in my recovery. There's only one person that could have sent me that red dragonfly and got me to focus on it and allowed me to pet him day after day after day after day, and take all these beautiful, stunning photos of him and make these videos of him. And here's what's another cool thing, that every I'm thinking of the month, every July, the end of July, August, Facebook starts giving me these memories of what I shared back then. And so I'm reliving this red dragonfly every summer, and I haven't gone back into those depression, that seasonal stuff ever since that.
That's so really cool. Wow.
So I collect red dragonflies. I collect all dragonflies.
Well, I mean, that makes total sense.
Well,
anyway, you have a great story, and you have a great story of hope too. And I hope that many others that hear your story, and I hope that you continue to share it, because I think that's what impacts and helps and inspires others, is that they hear they're not alone. I mean, there is hope.
Absolutely. And us speaking our truth, that's what keeps us healthy. That's what keeps us in recovery. Mm-hmm. I have a voice now. I didn't for many years, but boy, I can talk about it now.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so happy that you were able to share it here with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm honored, and I'm looking forward to hearing more.
I'll talk all you want.
Are we ready to give Matt the floor? I'm so intrigued with Matt's story. Matt, I just recently learned, not even a month ago, when you were vlogging in your car, Matt's thoughts, and you mentioned that you had quite a past, and immediately my ear was like, oh, really?
Well, and absolutely. But before I start, do you have any history yourself inside of recovery or an addiction model or anything like that?
No, I don't.
Really? Okay. It's like, I love this. I love sharing my story with people who don't have a similar story.
I don't.
Because I find that
I am intrigued by so many people who have lives that have had past that have really brought them to a completely different state of mind. Because I feel bad that I've had such a blessed life. Because I meet so many people. Most of the people that I feel compassion for, that I'm drawn to, are people that have had a reason to have hope and the reason to have the life that they lead today. And I always feel like, why am I so lucky? Why is nothing affecting me?
I think Patti would probably agree with me in this. I feel incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful for the life that I've led. It's I would not be who I am today. I would not be as authentic as I am today had I not gone through these experiences. So to me, it's it's so funny. I often look at other people and I go, man, I wish you were an addict so you could have what I have, right? It would be like, because my life is great today, right? And I get to share in such an authentic and open and honest and kind of very just transparent way about certain things. The way I frame life today is different. Patti, do you feel that as well?
Absolutely. Oh, there's so much I want to say. I used to couldn't be able to say anything now. If I had not gone through, I mean, everything I went through from even back when it wasn't really good. If I hadn't gone through all that stuff and the treatment and just everything, I mean, even right down to, anyway, I would not be in a position today to be doing what I'm doing, which is my husband and I adopted our granddaughter. Had I not gotten my stuff together, we wouldn't have been able to raise her. I wouldn't be able to care for my adult daughter that has had to move home because she's very ill. Had I not gone through all that, I wouldn't even be here to take care of her. I wouldn't be here to take care of Jonas, my grandson. So yeah, I had to go through that to get to this point so I could do this stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I haven't had trials in life. I just have not had to overcome an addiction. So I don't know really. Maybe you were asking me something else. I've not had an addiction that I've had to overcome, but I've had lots of trials. I mean, yeah.
Such is life, right? Like everybody goes through their own trials and tribulations, their own struggles, their own chaos, as it were. I think today I just kind of look at it and I go, everybody just has a different version of the same story. It's really all it is. And, you know, maybe it's someone had to go through bankruptcy or something like that, and it just destroyed their entire existence for 5-7 years or something like that. And I find the relatable content throughout everybody's story in that context. But Patti, like as we say in the rooms, thank you so much for sharing. My addiction, I guess the best way I can start is we grew up in a very isolatory family, very religious, very devout Baptist, Southern Baptist, if you will, in Southern California. So maybe not true Southern, if you will, but homeschooled, very isolated kind of upbringing. I always say my upbringing is exactly as it should have been for me. I could complain about a lot. I could point fingers at parents or brothers or sisters or friends or whatever. I choose not to. Everybody's childhood sucks in some way. And now learning a little bit more about Patti, I would say Patti experienced an extreme that I would never wish on anybody. Once it gets to that level of abuse, and it branches into emotional and psychological and physical, and that's scar tissue that's tough to deal with. I'm sorry, it just is. So Patti, that's a heartbreaking story. For like, I get emotional hearing those stories, and when I do hear that, it's such a commonality inside of addiction. I've spent years now working with addicts, and the amount of child abuse that comes to the surface through recovery is insane. So in any case, I joined the military at 17, got out of the house as soon as I could, and obviously did the what every 17-year-old person does, who's lived under a very strict guideline. I went out and did everything I shouldn't be doing, and experienced some tragedy while I was in the military, developed some very unhealthy coping mechanisms
What branch of the military were you in, Matt?
Navy. I went into the Navy, spent 6 years deployed. When I really started using drugs and drinking heavily while I was in the service. Drinking excessively, found myself inside of a very, very toxic behavioral pattern in my own life. Cocaine and ketamine and just on and on and on. It's just laundry list of drug use.
Wow.
When I got out, that addictive model just continued to get worse. Eventually got married, eventually had children, 2 wonderful boys with my partner. And it was about 8 years ago. I'd had a few DUIs as a process, as is going to happen. Luckily, never hurt anyone. Just my own pride, my own ego. Obviously blamed a lot of people. It was always everybody else's fault. It was the cop's fault. It was, my partner's fault. It was my kid's fault. It was my boss's fault. It was always everybody else's fault.
Wow.
The last DUI I had was 8 years ago, almost 9 now. And it was a complete blackout event. I do not remember any of this. I came to in the middle of a residential neighborhood roadway. My car completely totaled, cops everywhere. Long story short, apparently what had happened is I had been doing in excess of 85 miles an hour down a residential street and blacked out. And I'm not a religious person, I say, but for the grace of God, I swerved into the median of the road and not into somebody's house. Because if that had been the case, we would not be talking today. That I remember when I came to, that scared the hell out of me, is what it did. And suddenly the seriousness of this situation kind of set in. But my partner, as she so should have, and I always celebrate this decision on her part, she officially kicked me out. She had warned me months and months in advance. She said, you know what? I know it's going to happen. I've been through this enough times with you. I'm sick. I'm tired of it. I'm done with the abuse.
This was already after you were a father to the 2.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. God really did protect you.
To a point, I say, and that's a tough one. That's a tough one because in some regard, as I moved through the recovery process, what I found, and I say this to a lot of the guys that I work with inside of the rooms and inside of recovery centers, to a point, it would have been better if I had gone to prison. It would have been better for my family because of the emotional damage and the emotional abuse, the psychological damage I had been doing to them. Like, it would have been better just to remove me completely from the situation and let me sort this all out in my head. That way it would have saved them from that damage. So, but in any case, we separated for nearly 2 years. And during that time, I'd lived with my, dad, at the same time. It was horrible. My partner lost her job at the same time, and we lost a house, and everything just it's like when it rains, it pours. It's just everything came in.
How old were your boys?
They were young. 4. Well, I guess 3 and 1. 3 and 1. They were young. They were young at this point in time. So, in any case, I found myself even through all of this, I continued, after the DUI, I still continued to drink, because that was obviously hey, life sucks, so I'm going to go drink, because I thought that would be a good idea. And my official rock bottom was I found myself under a bridge, under the overpass of a freeway, thinking I could be okay doing this, rationalizing the decision to just be a homeless drunk, a drug addict under a bridge. And like a ton of bricks, this kind of set into me. And I was like, I think I need to take this seriously. So, we got invested. Luckily, the state sent me to counseling for the, multiple times I'd gone through this, but I finally found a good counselor. Or I was finally ready to be taught, basically. Actually, funny enough, the counselor I decided to go to, I distinctly remember on a DUI that I had maybe 5 years prior. I remember looking at the list of state-approved agencies, and I was like, I don't want to go back to that guy that I went to 5 years ago because he was a really jerk. He was a big jerk. He kept asking me about my family and my mom and my dad. I don't want to go to see that guy.
Too personal.
Right? Right? Like, no, I'm not here to find a solution to any of this. Like, I don't want that. As luck would have it, I ended up going back to the same exact guy. I didn't realize they had moved a new location, knew everything. And he's actually still my counselor today, 8 years down the road. But
Wow.
went into counseling, started to take it a little bit seriously. I definitely wasn't drinking. I was not invested into AA at this point in time. I had found myself doing odd jobs, just anything to make money. I was cutting lawns and I was working at Walmart. And this is going from making a very, very good salary, someone inside of a community who was somewhat respected, to now someone who's working at, Walmart. Like, oh, how terrible is this? Someone who's, mowing lawns for people just to make a couple bucks, just anything to make some money at this point, just trying to get the family back together. And,
how many years ago was this? What time frame? Like, how old are your boys now?
They're 11 and 9. 11 and 9. Wow. So at about the 2-year mark, I had not drank. I was clean, not what I consider sober. And my partner agreed to get back together. She goes, okay, you've got a car. You haven't drank. You have a decent job again. Okay, let's try this. So we found
this. Divorced or just separated?
Just separated. Just separated.
For 2 years.
So and she had started that with, I'm divorcing you.
She's a strong woman.
Oh, dude. I tell her that every day. Every day I'm like, you have no idea the amount of strength you have in all regards of this situation, in all regards, to kick me to the curb, because I am a manipulative human being. I am a horrible person.
Really saw the worth in you, though.
I think she's crazy personally.
I think she really saw the worth in you. That's awesome.
You know what? And I appreciate even today though, Kathy, I'll always say it. She would have been in her right mind where I am today. I would have gone divorce him. Absolutely. Divorce him. His history would dictate he's gonna get clean for a year, and it's gonna go right back to the way it was. So I feel, again, grateful and blessed and honored that she decided not to go through with the divorce, and we maintained a separation, and we allowed some time of healing to take place. So,
wow.
So in any case, so we get back together. Oh yeah. So we get back together. We have an apartment. It's this terrible, terrible little tiny apartment. It's the worst place we've ever lived in, but at least it was an apartment. It was a home. We could call it ours, right? I'm okay with it, man. Like, it's like one bedroom in this little kitchen. It was great. So, and I distinctly remember this was like the aha moment. And I know that Kathy or Patti probably has had these moments in her kind of period of recovery, these odd aha moments. So my wife had decided to take the kids up north to go visit family. So this is now the first time in 2 years I'm going to be by myself an entire weekend, right? I'm all by myself, right? And, I specifically planned a project at work for Friday night to keep me busy till like 2, 3 in the morning. And that way, when I got home, I'd be exhausted. And I was hoping I would go right to bed. And obviously that's not what happened. And I remember getting home, and it was late. It was like 2 in the morning. And I'm sitting in this empty apartment, and all I could think about is getting a drink. That's all
I knew
I
you were going
wanted.
to say that.
Yep.
Oh,
And it's, you want to talk about irrational logic, irrational thought. Here I am after 2 years of being clean. Granted, not working a program, but at least I'm clean. My partner, in all of her graciousness, has agreed to try this out again. I have a second chance at life. We got a car, we got an apartment. Like, all these good things are happening, and my thought immediately goes, "I'm by myself. I want to drink." That was the worst night of my life. I eventually, like, I threw my keys over into, like, my car keys into a neighbor's yard, so I couldn't find them. I paced all night, and finally, first thing in the morning, I didn't drink. I was awake all night. I go to my counselor because he was running a morning group, and I walked in literally in tears and just ragged, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. There's something wrong with me, and I don't know what to do. And he looks at me and he goes, God, you're an idiot. He goes, you are the biggest idiot I've ever met. He goes, Matt, I've told you for 2 years you need to start going to AA. And I went, okay. And he goes, here's your meeting guide. Go find a meeting. And that was the beginning of my AA journey. And since then, I've never had that problem again. So my life today after AA, still invested into counseling, invested into work with sponsorship, the 12 steps. I have met some amazing people. I have experienced tragedy that I could not have dealt with 8 years ago. And it's not like life is better. And I will say life is much better. Like, we're back to, like, the living conditions we were accustomed to. Our relationship is better. My kids are better. Like, everything is good. I think people get confused. They think once you go through recovery, like, everything around you just magically gets better. And that's not the case. Life is always going to have ups and downs. It's always going to be bad, always going to be good. It's just life.
how many AAs did it take to where you finally felt like, okay, this is a difference? Because I mean, there's so many, I don't know. Aren't there people that go to AA the one time, they walk out, or they don't go back, or they go 3 times and they think, well, this is a crock?
Absolutely.
How many times did it take you to actually go to where you knew this was a commitment that you needed to keep going?
When I got very lucky. My hesitation with AA, because of past being in trouble, I had to go to AA in the past before.
But you didn't go for you went because you had to.
Right, because if I didn't, the state was going to send me to jail. So I was like, yeah, I'll go to a meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I got lucky in that I walked in with a preconceived notion, because I'm not a religious person, and they had mentioned God, and that God word triggered me in the nastiest of ways, right? And I was like, oh, you're just a bunch of Christians or Catholics or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I got lucky that one of the guys I ran into at this meeting came up to me after the meeting was over and asked me to, what's my story? And I just, like, I was at a point where I was, it's the gift of desperation. I was willing to do anything. Like, I don't care if you want me to pray to God, I'll pray to God. If you want me to pray to Buddha, I'll pray to, I don't care. Just tell me what to do.
Right.
And he kind of took me under his wing at that moment. He goes, okay, well, here's the meetings I go to. Why don't you just go to the meetings I go to, and we'll go down this road. And he introduced me relatively quickly to a men's only meeting. And it was a bunch of older guys. And these guys, the minute I walked in, they immediately called out all the BS I was trying to feed them. And I went, oh, I think I found something. So I invested myself very quickly into AA. Within the first few meetings, I was lucky enough to find a really good group. Now, as far as the desire to drink or those very rough nights, and Patti knows these nights, very, very acutely. Like, you can't forget them. They're the nights when nothing satiates that thought. Nothing's going to put that thought away except reaching out to a friend in a program, a sponsor, someone who you worked recovery with. That went on for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And today, I mean, God, I do so much entertaining. Like, I take clients out, like, to the bar and to have drinks. Like, I'm constantly around alcohol, and it doesn't affect me today in the slightest. So, and that was, so I've been officially sober 6 years now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But God is your trigger.
My trigger was my own stupidity. my trigger, in my opinion, today, I did not understand the program of Alcoholics Anonymous because I had never given it a fair shake. AA is not a religious program. It can be if you want it to be.
I was wondering. I mean, I've never been to it. I didn't know. Is it a Christian-based program? So,
not at all. Not at all. They seek for you to find some type of higher power in your life, right?
Okay.
And that higher power for me for years was my own AA group, is what it was. And I found, anytime I had a problem, I would take it to my AA group, and they could solve it for me because, hey, so I said, you know what? They're my higher power. And then after that, my higher power, as I started getting more into Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, became the universe. And I just said, you know what? I don't know what's out there. So I'm just going to give it up to the universe, man. Whatever the universe decides, it decides. So it was always a barrier for me. And it's a barrier for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people still to this day will say AA because it says God is a religious program. It is not a religious
Dominique says the founder was a Christian.
Absolutely. Bill. Absolutely. 100%. And as
he says the 12 steps come straight out of the Bible.
Well, that would be, that's interesting. I'd like to see that. As someone who's spent a lot of time reading the both the King James as well as the 12 and 12, I've yet to see that. But who knows? You know, everybody is there to their own. But
yeah.
In any case, what I found for me is my triggers have always been when I'm faced with myself. Okay. My life was lived running from me. I did not want to face past trauma. I did not want to face myself. I did not want to face who I could be, who I should have been, what I should be doing. So I used my addiction to hide is what I did. I used it to numb myself so I didn't have to face who I was. So
now,
I would.
You're like a. Why do I think you're a youth counselor? Did I read that somewhere or hear you say that?
No, I'm not a youth counselor. No, what I am a sponsor, and then I volunteer in recovery centers as well as substance abuse counseling centers.
Oh, okay.
It's my way of giving back, and it also helps me stay straight, right? Because again, I think as Patti can attest to, the further away you get from like your bottom, the easier it is to forget how bad it was. So you start like those thoughts kind of creep in.
Like so Patti said, sharing is part of her healing.
Yes.
It's part of her keeping her in recovery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It keeps it fresh. And I think, Patti, did you ever experience it where it's like your forgetter was running overdrive? Like something bad would happen like a year ago and you'd be like, totally forget about it. You'd be like, oh, I'm just going to do it again. I'm fine.
No, I mean, I can relate to that in the sense that a lot of people block out trauma so they don't have to face it. But I guess in this sense, it's better to face it so that you remember and don't do it again.
Very much. In my opinion, I mean, Patti, what do you think of that?
You absolutely have to face everything within that is keeping you from being healthy or recovery. You have to face it, or you're just gonna
What my pastor has always said, and I repeat him so often, is that it's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay that way.
Yeah. Our secrets keep us sick.
What is that again?
Our secrets keep us sick.
Oh.
Correct.
I had this secret for 30 years, kept me sick. And until I let that out, I couldn't heal over any of it.
I'm typing that in the chat as your quote. Keep us sick. Yeah. Will both of you type in the chat just in case someone wants to find you or tag you for a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because we can open this up to the chat now for any panel discussion. I know Kit Kat had stated something earlier about being in the same shoes. She could relate to this. I'll go back here. She says she is a recovering opiate addict. I can relate to this fully. I don't think the drug of choice is so much important as it's the mental process you go through that makes our story similar.
Yes, 100%. And I'm sorry, Patti, I'm going to jump in here really quick. Here's my standpoint on addiction. When it's a substance, when it's food, whether you're withholding food or binging, whatever the case may be. I have never met anyone in recovery where the substance was the problem. The substance is never the problem. Okay. Right. Even if you're working a 12-step program, in AA, drinking is only ever mentioned in the first step. That's the rest of the steps are about you, and it's about facing your demons, facing your secrets, going through your personal life, and being a better person. Okay. And yes, we need to address the drinking thing, and that's why it's the first step. We got to address the drinking or the eating or the drugs or whatever the case. Yes, we have to address that. But just stopping that behavior is not going to make it better. It's just not.
Yeah.
Secondary to modern day tech, the OA meeting I've been to are all very religious. There was even one meeting place where all they did was read straight from the Bible for an hour. Not my cup of tea. Modern day tech, I am so sorry that was your experience.
I do too, because I firmly believe that to learn the Bible has to be a self-seeking. You can't throw it on someone. It could do the opposite effect.
It did actually in the foundation of AA, when AA was first being created, it was initially created very much as a religious program. And what they found is that every drunk automatically recoiled away from it, and it failed miserably.
Yeah.
So they actually revised the program to step away from religion.
Right. Christ came so that those who want him could follow him. He didn't throw himself on anyone.
There, absolutely.
And Christ is not a religion. I mean, Jesus is a relationship. So you don't get a relationship by throwing yourself at someone.
Never. That's a one-way street that's not going to work out very well for anybody.
Patti, Patsy Houlihan has a question for you.
Yes, I saw that.
To tell about your work with puppets and any way that it helped your recovery.
That is so interesting, because this is something that me and my therapist figured out in treatment. So since 1991, I have been, I did what's called blacklight theater. I don't know if anyone's familiar with blacklight theater, but it is where, and this is still before.
Like shadowing, or like with a shadow?
Well, it's like you dress in all black.
Okay.
Hood over your head, black gloves. You have a black background. And all the puppets that I created, they were like neon colors. And so you would put black lights on the stage or whatever in the theater. And I could go out there and I could perform all these neon puppets. Nobody would see me. So I was able to express my love of art. I have just had a life of many of the arts. I could express my feelings through those puppets, but I was still hiding. I was hiding in all that black stuff because I didn't, it just made so much sense when we figured that out. But when
do you do anything of that now? Like, do you have any of that on your YouTube? I've never heard of that type of art.
It's so much fun.
Sounds pretty fascinating, though.
Yeah. No, I don't have any on YouTube, but I still have some of my puppets in the closet over there. I had my
We need to bring them out. We need to see Matt freak out. Matt can't stand puppets.
Would you really like to see one of my?
I don't know. We might
Actually, I would. I would love to see one of these puppets because puppets they're a fascinating little thing, but they freak me out. I don't like them at all. So
I know. I've heard you say this many times.
I have one you would love. He would not freak you out.
Okay, show me the one that would not freak me out. Show me that one. All right.
You do know though, puppets are so therapeutic, and for children that are working through whatever crap they're working through.
Yeah, do you feel that way about stuffed animals too, Matt?
No, it's like the animated puppet person. Like it's like animated life is just weird. I don't know what it is.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Matt. Sometimes I'll go get one of my puppets, and my daughter Tessa, she's almost 12 now, and it's the way you just slightly tilt that head. It just makes it come alive.
To know if you're afraid of her.
Yeah, because dude, absolutely.
I know. I said something to Patsy the other day about the puppets have expression, but they don't. Why is it that they have some way of expressing themselves? But it's that tilt or the googly eye.
The very slightest move that makes it come alive, and some people like it, some people don't. But back to Patsy's question. She asked how puppetry helped me. In a way, for all those years from 91 till I did my own blacklight theater for God, I don't know how long, but I was hiding behind all that stuff.
So this was before you went into your therapy.
Yeah. And then, as I was like way in my, in the not so good years, all that stuff just sat. I didn't do music. I didn't do puppetry. I didn't do anything. But when I was in like my 3rd month of treatment, all I wanted to do, it was when I went into the transition house. I asked my therapist, could I go get all that stuff, my stage, my lights, my puppets, and bring it back to the transition house? And so I went home that weekend and I brought it back and I set it up, and I hadn't performed for anyone for I don't know how long, but I got all the girls, and there were guys there too, and I brought them behind stage with me, and I taught them how to manipulate the puppets and all that. So, recovery brings you back to the things you used to love too. Yes. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Let me. Okay, so I read. I love educating myself. I love educating myself. There's actually methods of therapy that deal direct with puppets and dolls, etc. Did you find yourself? I mean, I'm probably going to butcher this. But because I'd never invested myself into this type of therapy or counseling or whatnot, my understanding is you're utilizing the puppet as a mirror for yourself, as a mirror for your own emotional trauma, your own abuse. It's something that you can almost rationalize with.
Well, I think children do that a lot with therapy. They talk for the puppet because they can't talk for themselves.
Absolutely.
So it brings out what they want to say. So they have the puppet say what they're feeling.
Correct.
Yeah, they can also move the puppet, you know, and open up the things that need to be found out.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't just say. You lose your voice. And
wow.
You know, and I think that's very true. That's very true, Patty. One of the Patsy says, "I think I'm very therapeutic." You are. You are. One of the things I notice is inside of I in my opinion, childhood abuse is something that steals your voice. When it comes to addiction as experienced as an adult, what I find is that people are more willing to give away their voice. They just don't, they just want to hide. They don't want to deal with it anymore. They don't want to, it's almost like they've just simply given up. So the process of recovery is almost like rebuilding a strength in you as a human, in you as a person, to recapture the vibrance of your voice. It's one of the reasons I started actually getting into YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like it was an opportunity for me to share a voice with more people. So for me, this is a therapeutic experience, you know? So, but yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is sharing a voice.
No, I'm so glad to have you both be able to share your story. And I want anyone else who's in the chat to feel free to bring, you know, your own story to the page too. That's what I'm here for. I want to be able to bring an outlet to anyone who needs a voice.
Matt.
Yes.
I'll be right back.
Oh gosh,
she's go get her puppet.
So, and while she's grabbing a puppet, one of the things I think I've noticed, and I want to chat. Oh, Modern Day has to run. Okay, well, if Modern Day ever comes back and listens to this, dude, here's what I'd like to say. When it comes to OA, because I think you're actually doing the what is it? The Diamond Dallas Page Yoga DDPY. I think you're going down that road as well. OA or any 12-step program is really about the betterment of self. And I would encourage anyone out there, if you're going to a 12-step meeting and you're just like, there's just an excessive amount of religion being thrown at you or something like that, find a different meeting. Don't give up. Okay. There are inside of AA alone in the air. I'm in Orlando. Okay. There's over 200 meetings in Orlando. Okay. So every single one of those meetings is going to be just a little bit different. All right. Some are going to be very focused on Christ-based methodology. Some are going to be very focused on Buddhism. Actually, we've got a few Buddhist meetings around here. We've got atheist meetings and agnostics meetings. Like, there is a meeting for anybody out there. Okay. Don't give up. I think
acceptance has to be a key factor in any kind of meeting like that. If you don't feel accepted or if you don't feel heard, it won't work.
Very much so. Well, and it's so funny. Acceptance is one of my favorite words, Kathy. And acceptance is huge. You need to walk in and feel that acceptance, okay? And not to say that one meeting's not going to accept you and the other meetings is not going to accept you, but there has to be some type of commonality in what you're doing, in what you're going for there. One of the biggest things I struggled with my entire life was acceptance. I refused to accept life on life's terms. I was always trying to be the master of my own universe. I was always trying to control things and manipulate people and manipulate situations.
You have a little bit of that personality still.
Of course I do. Of course. Like I laugh all the time. And it's so true, Kathy, 100%. Like I'm a very overbearing individual.
No,
I'm very gregarious. I am very loud and boisterous at times, right? Well,
but accepting that of you is that brings out your charm, and you can actually be a positive you. When
did you just call me charming? Is that what you did?
Yes,
I can't believe you did that.
Of course.
I'm curious, Matt, did any kind of OCD go along with your
Stop it. Leave me alone. I didn't want to talk about any of that.
Do you think like we all have this OCD thing that does, because mine was bad, and it's really interesting because my OCD went together with my food stuff.
Yes.
Like I was all about numbers, and they labeled me as what was it? Exercise bulimia.
Oh.
Where exercise bulimia, where if I ate a piece of bread, I'd go run 5 miles to get the bread off.
Dude.
Yeah, exercise bulimia. Instead of,
sorry, you guys, my dog's barking.
Purging it, you exercise it out. You feel so guilty about eating a piece of bread that you got to go work it off. But my OCD was all about numbers, and I had these specific foods, and they had to be cut. Like a zucchini had to be cut in a certain amount of slices.
Oh my God, are you serious?
I am serious. If one slice was wrong, I start over, and I know. And then also the treadmill. I can't have a treadmill in my house.
Are you serious?
I cannot have a treadmill because that was one of my major things, was running 5 miles in the morning, 5 miles in the evening, on top of teaching dance for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord, dude.
But
it's because calories, you needed to burn the calories that you put in.
The thing about the treadmill also was numbers. If I went, I'd watch that number on the mileage, not the miles, but the one that ticks off until you get to the end of a mile, right? And if I accidentally went over past the 9 and back into the 0 or the 1, I'd have to go another mile to get it back to that. So I would stop on an even number.
Oh my God. So you had this entire system built inside of your own mind. That is
It is insane.
It is insane, and it is crazy, and it is wonderful, and it is beautiful. Do you notice these types of correlations still in your life today? Maybe not in unhealthy ways, but do you still notice a little bit of the OCD tics?
Yeah, but they would be healthier, I guess.
Right.
But no, the numbers were the numbers were just
wow.
That must have been exhausting.
It was exhausting. I would get up. Then again, I don't want to.
Did it change though when you became more aware of it?
Did it what?
Did it change once you became more aware of it? Because at times I can just see you're going through the motion and doing it, but you're not really aware that you're doing it. So that the awareness, I still think the awareness is key of any of addiction. Even like emotional eating. I have an emotional eating, but as soon as I'm aware, like, okay, you're eating because you're emotional. Now you can stop.
Right.
It's an awareness, I think, is so important in any kind of addiction, or I think that's the first step. I don't know the 12 steps.
I have to be aware that I can't have a treadmill in my house.
Yeah, you're aware. You know what.
But I was just curious about the OCD, if that was a thing with you, Matt.
Have you seen my Discord and the way it's organized? Like it's very much OCD, very much. I mean, to a point where, like Bana and Dose and a lot of people who are kind of invested with it, like they give me a hard time about it, and rightfully so. I love playing with it as well. Today, I think in ways I've kind of weaponized some of these secondary diagnoses that have taken place. So, you know, I've been diagnosed as OCD and ADHD. And I always consider myself more ADD than anything. Like I'm like a squirrel trying to get a nut. So
your B. Kelly craft table seems to be vouching for you.
Right, absolutely. She knows very well, right? I can start a conversation here, and then before you know it, the conversation is way out there somewhere else. And that's just a facet of my ADD, is all it is. And I enjoy today. I enjoy it. Today, I can play with it. I wouldn't say I have it under control or anything like that.
Accept it.
Right. But I accept what it is. And because of that acceptance, it breeds awareness. And once I'm aware of something, then I can start actually utilizing it in ways that I haven't in the past. So yeah, absolutely. Do I appear OCD? Am I an OCD person? Is it the Discord that did it to you?
It can be an agonizing thing, though. You know?
Yeah.
They even in treatment, they put me on some kind of medication that was supposed to help with it.
Really?
That stuff was horrible. I remember laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and one of the side effects of that OCD medication, which I wonder if it is really a thing, was you immediately fall. Like I would be laying down, and then it would be like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
It was horrible. I couldn't wait to get off of it.
Yeah.
Alien says he can relate to ADD, unfortunately.
Yes.
I have 2 sons, and my husband are all diagnosed ADHD.
Really? Mm-hmm. So, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Looking back, I find it very funny. So, you know, this is after I had gone through, I was already working the 12 steps, and I was on my way into recovery. I went to, you know, finally started addressing some of the other things. And they said, okay, well, you know, OCD, ADHD, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, here's your laundry list of pills. And I looked at them and I went, you realize I'm an addict, right? And you're giving me prescription medication. And I'll never forget the look on the doctor's face. She looked at me and she goes, oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to give you these. And I was like, okay. She goes, all right, well, here's a psychologist you could talk to, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But the thing is, I didn't want the medication. I just wanted to, I needed to have that check mark off my plate, basically. Because it was always in the back of my head. I was always curious about it. In my opinion, especially when it comes to my OCD, my ADHD, meditation helps tremendously calm me. Mindfulness helps tremendously to calm myself. And I think there's a lot of holistic practices that we've lost along the way. Mm-hmm. If you're a Christian, maybe you would convey it to prayer, right? Sitting there quietly reaching out to something bigger than you, you know? So yeah, to me, I just prefer a more holistic approach when it comes to stuff like that. So
do you prefer puppets?
Show me your puppet. I want to see your puppet. All
right, hang on. I put it. I don't know how well this is going to do right here. Hang on. I want you to get.
Oh, that's not so. He's kind of cute.
I'm going to put you on the screen, Patty. There you go. Now you're on the screen.
All right. Let me get it set up here. So in the olden days, I would be wearing black, and everything behind me would be black.
Right.
And then the black lights would be on, and the lights would be out. And nobody would see anything but Mr. Ants.
That's very cool.
Dude. Okay, I like that puppet because it doesn't look like a human. But
you can do this on YouTube. You've got to figure out a way to get your camera set up like a green screen where it's black or something, and you could do this to music, to your Array Mbira music.
I want to record oh God, what's the song? The Ant and the Rubber Tree Plant.
Yeah. And I want to rubber tree plant. Yeah, what is that? I can't even think of the lyrics.
If you can't move a rubber tree plant.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Laverne and Shirley because they always sang that song.
Yeah, high hopes. I think it is. Here you go, Matt.
High hopes.
Dude.
High hopes.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's cool.
Patty, that is awesome.
Yeah, you should do a collab with Patsy and put together that little. Do you have other ones or just the ant?
Oh, I've got, oh gosh. Don't even ask.
Lots.
Well, that's so artistic, though. That is incredible. I bet that
is.
I am.
What are its antennae made out of?
What is what?
What's its antennae made out of?
Pipe cleaners.
That is
that
so
doesn't even
awesome.
seem like a puppet to me. That seems like a piece of art.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he started out all white, and I built him and sewed him. He was just white fleece, and then I painted him. Well, I put a sealer on him, and then painted him the neon orange.
That's even cooler because you actually designed him and made him.
Yeah, I used to build puppets.
He is a work of art.
Yeah, I used to build puppets for a few companies. Yeah.
Dude, that is honestly like, I hate this. This is just where my brain goes. If you could mass produce those, you would sell the hell of them. Dude, those things, that is so cute and so adorable. People would buy that.
I don't want anyone else to have this.
I guarantee you, Bonna would be like, okay, now that she's seen it, she'd be like, I want to make one of those now.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
He had his own show. He did Dave Brubeck. Dave Brubeck, Take Five.
Oh yeah.
Take Five. You probably know it if you heard the music, but he was just a cool dude, and he would do his thing on stage, and then he would come back with his glasses, and he would like.
That's very, very cool. I'm very impressed.
Dude, that is awesome. That is awesome. I wanted to address a question from Alien. Alien said, Matt, when you see a homeless, obviously addicted person on the street, what is your reaction? That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I think a lot of people would not like my response to this. When I first got into recovery, I was very kind and accommodating of them. I honestly was. So, offering them rides, offering them some cash, what have you, because I had just been in a situation very similar to that. As I've moved through recovery, though, my affect has changed. And I think here's my reality as the way I look at it. I had to make a choice in that moment what I was going to do. Okay. I was either going to stay there or I was going to, I know everybody gets tired of hearing because it's not nice and it's not PC and it's not soft, but I had to pull myself up from my own bootstraps, and I had to put my life back together. I had to make choices to put my life back together. No one else was going to do it for me. No one was giving me a handout. I had kind people in my life. My mom was very kind, and even my dad was very kind. My partner, even her kicking me out was the kindest thing she could have ever done for me. Okay?
Yeah, you can't. Well, it gets to where you can't enable. I mean,
correct.
Yeah,
correct. So today, when I see that homeless person who is obviously addicted and deep into it, I just feel bad that they haven't made it to that point when they're willing to get themselves out of it yet. Simple as that. Yeah. So
sometimes the only way you can help is by not helping.
Very much so. Very much so. And people don't want to hear that because they want to hear that, no, we need to lift these people up and you need to help them and you need to give them handouts. And you need to do all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it doesn't work.
You
I'm
can't
sorry.
get me started on that because that's what's wrong with our younger generation. All
No,
this
well,
entitlement. It's like, stop helping them.
absolutely. You have to allow that person to grow of their own accord, because in almost it backfires on you, because the more you help them out, the more you're stealing away from them their own confidence and faith in themselves. To
well, you yourself said you were forced to go to AA. When you're
absolutely.
When you're forced to do something, it's not going to work unless you want to change.
Correct. Well, and that's what Patti, I mean, Patti explained, like, she's sitting there on her couch, miserable. She's the one who had to make the choice, and she'd been living with this. That was when you were what, 38?
Mm-hmm.
So you had been living with this for 30 plus years. And I'm sure you were in moments going, I know what I'm doing is not right. You had to have experienced those, you know?
Absolutely. You know, and even I didn't touch on it, but moments of I'm done. I just can't live anymore. You know, moments of that.
Yep.
And I have a really cool story.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
I do. I want to hear it.
Oh, my laptop went sleep. Hang on. There you are. Well, do we have time?
I'm here all night.
Okay. Well, I had a best friend, and we taught dance together many years. And you know, one of the worst places I could be as an anorexic is in front of the mirror 10 hours a day. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, one of my favorite times of the dance year, was when we covered the mirrors so that the girls couldn't watch themselves, you know, preparing for a recital. And once we covered those mirrors, man, it was just like, oh, I don't have to look at myself, which
wow.
It's called body dysmorphia. Like, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And even though I was like, whatever I was, man, I was like, not seeing it at all. And anyway, so this friend of mine had put me on a list to go to a retreat. And I'm going to share some of my faith here. It's called the Walk to Emmaus. Have you ever heard of it, Kathy?
No.
The Walk to Emmaus. It is like you go on a Thursday and you're there all weekend. It is just an incredible experience. You know, you come home on Sunday. They had set up, and this is like when I was like there at the bottom, they had already pre-set up like cans of Ensure, you know, because they knew I was going to get there, and they had a medical, you know, staff waiting, you know, and before I go, I was sitting, I used to journal. My way of getting my words out was to sit at the computer and I would journal, type. I have binders this tall full of pages of my thoughts that I couldn't tell anybody, but I could get it out on paper.
I can relate to that. I journal.
I've
journaled since I was 13.
Yeah, I would even take my week's worth of journaling to my therapist that I was seeing, and I would hand it to her because I couldn't speak. I couldn't say it out loud. So she would read what I was thinking, and then we would.
Yeah.
Anyway. But, okay, going back to, so there was this one night I was journaling. Wait. I got to go back. My best friend was a huge Emmaus person, and she knew that is something that would have benefited me to be on. But the list to go to this retreat had like a 2 years of waiting.
To be able to be accepted to go there?
Wow.
Well, there was that many people waiting to go to this retreat.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like 2 years out. And so one night I was sitting at my not laptop. I had one of those, the old PC, you know, back then. I was sitting there and I was journaling, and it was the night, I'll never forget it. I typed, my thoughts of what I wanted to do the next day, which I'm not going to say it, but you know, I was done. And as I was typing that, the phone rang. And it was my friend who owned the dance studio. And she said, come on over and let's pick out our costumes for the recital. And I'm thinking, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to sit here and I want to wallow in my mess. And I want to sit here and have my pity party and decide what I'm going to do tomorrow. I ended up going over to her house and we're sitting there and she knew she's trying to pick me up, right? You know, she's like, I got to get her out of
Get her out of there. Yeah.
Get her out of the house. So we're sitting there looking at costumes and her phone rings. This is a Tuesday night. Her phone rings and it is the coordinator for the Emmaus Walk that very weekend. So on Tuesday, I had made the decision and she got me to her house. We're picking out costumes. While we're picking out costumes, the phone rings and it's the coordinator from the Emmaus Walk. And they're like, we want Patti here this weekend.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, dude.
So I had 1 day to prepare. I know, like 2 years out, or I'm going a day. Yes. And so I went to that, and there's so much happened there. Just to touch on just some of the things that happened there. I'm sitting there. I was put at a table. There were like all these round tables, you know, all these women. It was a women's retreat. And the speaker that first night gets up. The speaker gets up, and I'm right here, and she's right there. I'm at the table right in front of her. Her name is Patti, P-A-T-T-I, just as mine. And she dealt with anorexia throughout her life.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there.
Wow.
And this person is right over me. And I mean, it's just one of the many things that has happened since the beginning of that. So many things, so many God things have happened to me. The red dragonfly. Who gets a red dragonfly for 18 days in a row and pets the thing?
Right, right.
But I want to show you this. On our Emmaus walk, we got, this is like really, I keep forgetting I'm on this camera. De Colores is the big song that you sing on, which means the colors, right? So everyone that goes on an Emmaus walk gets this handmade, colorful thing, and it has a cross on the end of it. And I got mine.
How are you spelling the Emmaus walk?
E-M-M-A-U-S.
I just wanted to type in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going a little bit forward, when I went to treatment, because after my walk, I was on a hill, right?
How long is the walk?
Pardon?
How long is this Emmaus walk period?
It's from Thursday evening to Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Sunday.
Wow,
Okay.
and there's a 2-year wait for this 4-day retreat.
And when I went, I wasn't eating. By Sunday morning, I ate the breakfast. I ate the breakfast they put because that was just the beginning of the things I had to go through to start the stuff. But I left that Emmaus walk and I was like I'm walking through Kroger, you know, and I'm just bright-eyed and I had one guy stop me in Kroger after I got back from that Emmaus walk, and he said, "You look full of joy." And I'm going, dude, I am.
Yeah.
But I am. Back to this little thing here. It's not a little thing, but when I did go to Shades of Hope, I kept this in. I love hoodies, and I wear my hoodie, and I keep this in my pocket. During those 3 months, this was in my pocket, and I would cling to it. And by the end of those 3 months, this hard steel cross ended up, let's see if you can see this.
Oh, I got
Can you-
Wow. Wow.
That is from me holding it.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
That is
it completely
holding it in my thumb.
warped and bent.
Yes. It's it was amazing.
Mm.
But
Are there material things that you hold on to, Matt, that have helped you through your recovery? Is there anything, a symbol or anything that?
No, not really. No, I am not that kind of guy. I think relationships have been important. Only because I've always struggled making connections, like making actual real connections with people. So for me, I find symbolism inside of relationships and whatnot. So, sponsors or stepbrothers, certain friends, my own spouse, my partner, my children. So
I'm curious because the video I watched, and you were going through the drive-through and you stopped and you had this immediate full joy reaction to these drive-through people.
I love them.
I
love
know that that's something that you really focus and make sure that you do when you meet someone or when you interact with someone. Is that always been your personality, or is that just in your recovery?
That was a part of me. I remember my mom telling me that as a kid I was a very friendly, loving, engaging person, and that's a person that I had lost over years of abuse. So today, there's a part of me that yes, how about this? I guess the short version is this. I like making people feel good. And if I am in a position to even if it's only I'm engaging with this person for 1 minute, as long as they're not a complete D-bag, I want to make them feel good. I want to, like, when I leave that exchange with them, I want them to feel better than they felt when before I got there. So that's with everybody.
You're a thermostat. I always say you can either be a thermometer or a thermostat. A thermometer changes, or what is it? I guess that it's the opposite. A thermostat sets the temperature. Am I even saying that right?
A thermostat sets the temperature, and a thermometer just reads the temperature.
Reacts. A thermometer reacts
Yes.
to the mood in the room, and a thermostat changes and sets the mood in the room. That's what
I appreciate that. Ladies, listen, I do have to run though. And I always say it, my kids got home and now I have to do things with the kids now. So because you can probably hear them back there.
We've gone a great time tonight, and I'm really happy to have you both here. We will probably stop the broadcast here. Is there anyone that has any last question real quickly before my guests leave? Please do so now. And I'd love to do a part 2, or if any of you have more time or stories that you'd want to share again. I've loved this. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
You bet.
This was a lot of fun. And Patti, like, I did not realize, I had my suspicions about your background, and it wasn't until you shared a short novella of a comment on one of my videos. And it was the first comment I woke up to that morning. And like I was damn near in tears reading it, and it was so amazing to hear that side of your story. So I appreciate you sharing it then, and I appreciate you sharing it now. That takes strength and passion, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Same to you too.
Both of you. I know it was good that we were able to have you both here together. Thank you both for coming. Thank you for those of you in the chat. Thank you for everyone who's been watching. And it is my goal to have a voice. I want anyone who wants to join in on a Real Talk again. In the description box is the contact for my Twitter, and hit me up, and I welcome it.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, chat.